All right, this is part 2. We are talking about sensory overload. I just wanted to show you my pretty little thing I made. It does many different things. It's got the mandala, or however you wish to say it, and then the different runes on there. But, if I can set it down, continuing where I left off. So, when we have sensory overload, it can present as meltdowns or tantrums and much more, especially in adults, but it can, again, be present in children too, which is more of the rage in anger. But when we look at this, when we have these are presented with the opportunity, like right before these meltdowns happen, that's where you need to catch it. But when you're already in the meltdown or tantrum or misbehavior, it's not always necessarily misbehavior. It's a cry for help. It's your body and mind, everything trying, like basically screaming, okay? It's screaming for you to look at what's going on, what the root issue is to the situation. Because if you don't, it can lead to, like, again, the different types, but you can go into blackout stage, you go into rage, different, moderations of rage. It can also be plain stupidity of self-behavior or actions, like past, self-sabotaging patterns, those thoughts where we just automatically act with a reaction, and it's usually something from the past, and that's why it's important to be aware of it so you can change and correct that behavior in the future before you do it again. Okay? So, why look at self first? Because it shows you directly where that energy came from, where it flows from, and you follow it like a cord, little by little. And your body will not give you too much that will overwhelm you. Why? Because your body does not like to be in an over or underwhelmed state. That's why it'll start doing things to show you these things. Because in a natural state, you're not fighting against it. Otherwise, like, your body's sort of fighting against, the flow of what's trying to become present. But causes, there are many different things or combinations of things that can trigger sensory overload. They include crowds, many different sizes, depending on, what you've been through again, or tightly packed spaces, loud sounds, or, if you're sensitive, psychically, or however you want to look at it, your centers are open, this really affects you too, or can. So there are ways to adjust this, but such as loud music, fireworks, a crowd, a festival, strong smells, unpleasant touch, or unwanted or unexpected. For example, things that are itchy, scratchy, rough, too hot or cold on skin, any physical contact or context. Drastic or sudden changes in light, temperature, or sound. Emotionally charged peoples or situations, or just energies, because sometimes it's neither. It's just the energy that someone may be carrying as well. Or groups of people, or that group of people. So, susceptibility. Certain other conditions can make someone more prone to experiencing sensory overload. And with this, I don't like to label anything, because then it sort of creates this barrier where you sort of can use it as an excuse. You can be aware of it, but it's really not labeling you any different than anybody else, because we all go through these things. That's sort of how I'm looking at it. So if you don't share it, if you don't try to do something about it, you just, sit in this and you keep experiencing the same things. Not to get off track here. So, sensory processing disorder, and we'll talk about some of these. Generalized anxiety disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. You let these things run your life, essentially, if you don't really take the time and effort attention deficit and hyperactivity disorder, and a lot of these are misunderstood and mislabeled themselves because they involve multiple systems, not just one system. People with ADHD can find it difficult to focus and can struggle with processing sensory input and knowing where to put it, where to store it, where to take from, where to give from, all that good stuff. Autism. People on the spectrum of autism disorders tend to be more susceptible to experiencing sensory overload because of many different things, because their system is connected to many different systems and they need to be in alignment. But sensory processing disorder, it is a neurological condition in children, but it's also in adults, that can affect the way the brain processes information coming in from the senses. They may be extra sensitive to sensory input, hypersensitivity, or conversely not react to it, hyposensitivity. And you may go back and forth. Some people go back and forth. Children with sensory disorders may avoid overstimulation. Some may seek it. Bright lights, strong smells, loud places, or seek out more stimulation when they are not receiving enough in the right ways, shapes, and forms. You can be receiving enough sensory input, but not the right ones that are going to connect you to, that drive and focus that you're looking to be in. Excuse me. Turn the page. The over and or under responsivenesses can be mistaken for behavioral issues when they're not. They may be, but again, they're showing you something or bringing something to the forefront and needing to tune into that vibration, that frequency, so you can follow that path to find what the issue is. Because it's usually like a trigger emotion, or like emotion, again, trauma, whatever the case may be. And sometimes they don't know how to communicate or express or even know what this emotion is. Children who are hypersensitive may show an intense dislike for certain textures or normal sights, sounds, and smells. They may engage in risky behaviors. This is important to avoid the overstimulation of hyposensitivity. And this is to sort of numb from the effects of having so much sensory overload. It's like an escapism, okay? And again, that runs from childhood into adulthood. Children may be impulsive, fidget, or seek attention by making disturbing or loud noises, because that's the only way they can get people's attention. Sensory processing disorder, and that's all they see. Like everybody... Sensory processing disorder is not officially recognized, but many see it as part of other conditions such as autism, and it's actually, basic functionings that connect to many different systems. So anxiety and sensory overload are both mental health conditions and share a deep relationship. People who are anxious may already feel overwhelmed. And with this, you can also overwhelm yourself by letting all these thoughts flood in of what you're expecting to happen or how you think things are going to go down, and that creates its own issue in itself as well. So people who are anxious may already feel overwhelmed and can be more prone to experiencing sensory overload, because again, they're adding their own thoughts to it. That's why it's good to sort through the thoughts, because you're getting rid of the ones that you don't need, because they're not true. Similar people who experience sensory overload can experience anxiety from it. It is important to try and identify what sensory inputs and what situations or places, etc., that trigger your sensory overload for you. And with this, it's starting by looking at what's going on. Try to do as much detail as you can, because the more and more details you remember of each time, it's going to show you a little piece. You're going to connect little pieces, or you should be doing this each time you're looking at each trigger or situation that occurred. Really asking yourself questions.